Listen, I know I didn't do a last 16 predictions video. It would have actually been impossible though. The group stages and the round of 16 have like maybe a 24-hour gap, actually less than 24-hour gap between each other. And also, I was working on the group stage review video. So we're just gonna ignore the last 16 predictions and focus on the quarterfinal predictions. How about that? I know what you're saying, Maxwell, should you even be legally able to predict any more matches? Probably not. But listen, it's a new round, and I get a clean slate. And I also predicted Morocco beating Spain. Rabona TV literally has the receipts. Before we get into that though, I would also like to say a big thank you for 10,000 followers on Instagram, so you know what that means. We get to do that 20 World Cup shirts giveaway. Basically, I'm just gonna have a link to a form down in the description. You just fill it out. You also have to have an Instagram. That way, when I announce the winners, it's just easier to message them. You'll have about 2 weeks to do so, and then after that, I'll probably just do a live stream revealing the winners. So again, just fill out the form. It'll be a link in the description, and yeah. So for our first quarterfinal matchup, we have Brazil versus Croatia. Brazil got to this point by winning Group G and then defeating South Korea. That actually wasn't defeating them. That was a bloodbath. That was a massacre of South Korea. How Croatia got to this point, they were runners-up in Group F and then defeated the Japanese. I don't want to remember that match. Please stop showing me that clip of Karo Mitoma crying. Croatia, I would say, have a very solid defense. The likes of Livakovic as their goalkeeper. I won't give him too much credit for the penalties because they were god-awful penalties, but he's still been a very good keeper in this tournament. He's only conceded twice, and these were pretty close range goals that he did concede. When it comes to the center back partnership, we have Dejan Lovren pretty much turning back the clock every single time he's ever in a tournament for Croatia. And then you have the young Josko Gvardiol, who is really making a name for himself, and his price tag has probably gone up at least 100%. Of course, the midfield though is the core of this Croatian side. Marcelo Brozovic, Mateo Kovacic, and more importantly, Luka Modric. Luka Modric is very old, but even despite that, he's looked fantastic in this tournament. Croatia's attack is a little bit questionable. They've scored 5 goals, but 4 of them came against Canada and the other against Japan. But if there's one player you can never take your eye off, it's Ivan Perisic, probably the most underrated player in the world in this era of football. No matter what match it is, he's always going to be a dangerous prospect, and of course, you can't forget that beautiful header he scored against Japan. Then we have Brazil, and I'm sorry, but they're on a completely different level. And there's no disrespect to Croatia, but I mean, that attack is by far more superior. Richarlison has been fantastic in this tournament. Vinicius Jr. provides even more threat on the wings. I've really been loving Lucas Paqueta in this tournament as well. And of course, you can't forget about the star player in this tournament, Neymar, who has barely even really played in this tournament because he was targeted by like 8 different Serbians in the first match. And considering all the attacking talent that surrounds this man, I mean, it's just not fair.
I can't compete!
You add on top of that Casemiro, an anchor that wasn't even there for the quarterfinals in 2018, which was a huge part as to why Brazil lost to Belgium. So that's definitely going to be a pleasant feeling for the Brazilians, knowing that their best anchor will be actually playing in the quarterfinal. The defenses look really good as well. Thiago Silva has been turning back the clock as per usual. He never really seems to age. It's been this case for like at least the last 4 years. Marquinhos right beside him has looked really good as well. And I feel like with all this talent, you kind of forget about Alisson, because Alisson, despite not really having too much to do, has really shown off what he can do. South Korea had some fantastic shots. Hwang Hee-chan I think had like 2 in the first half, and every single time Alisson was there to save them. I mean, just mentioning all these players, it is so difficult to predict against the Brazilians. I'm not going to do that, because that would be foolish. So I'm sorry, Croatians, but I think this is the end of the road. I'm going to go with a 2-0 victory for the Brazilians. I think that's pretty safe. Next up, we have Argentina versus the Netherlands. These two teams have played each other a few times in the World Cup before.
Dennis Bergkamp! Dennis Bergkamp, let the ball on! Dennis Bergkamp! Dennis Bergkamp! Dennis Bergkamp! Dennis Bergkamp! Dennis Bergkamp!
But if you look at these two teams and how they play, I think the most important aspect of this match you're going to really need to focus on is the midfield, because you have an Argentinian team who doesn't really have any natural wingers, so they'll always play through the center. And noticeably so, they haven't looked as fantastic as people expected them to be. The absence of Giovanni Lo Celso for Argentina, especially with him being the top assister in qualifiers for them, has been really missed in this tournament. But you know, you still have Enzo Fernandez and, you know, basically Lionel Messi's bodyguard, Rodrigo de Paul. But definitely watch out for Enzo Fernandez. He's looked really good ever since he was subbed on against Mexico. Mexico. Now, talking about the Dutch midfield, Louis van Gaal has a fantastic mid-block setup, and that mid-block is led by Frankie de Jong, who has looked fantastic throughout this tournament. He's really impressed me. But looking at the other parts of the pitch for both teams, you look at the defense, it's pretty solid on both sides. I feel like it can be shaky though. Christian Romero and Nicolas Otamendi have looked fairly good, but to be fair, Argentina have had the schedule strength of the Dallas Cowboys. Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Poland, Australia. I mean, come on. On the Dutch side, it can also be very shaky as well, especially against Senegal, I saw that. You have the back three of Virgil van Dijk, Nathan Ake, and I believe Jurrien Timber. We have the attacks with the Netherlands. Memphis Depay recently scored in the last 16, so that's going to boost his morale. And of course, Cody Gakpo is one of the top scorers in this tournament with 3 goals currently. You can never count out Denzel Dumfries, despite him having a pretty indifferent tournament, I would say. But you know, a goal and assist against the US, even if our defense was absolutely terrible, is a good sign. And then you have the Argentinian attack. Lionel Messi, I mean, like, come on. Come on, that man is magical, magisterial. He drops back, sits at the top of the box. He'll either take a shot from way out, maybe dribble in and then take a shot, or usually provide for his teammates. The problem is, can his teammates score? This has always been a problem for Argentina. Every single World Cup tournament. I can assure you though, it definitely won't be Lautaro Martinez that Lionel Messi can rely upon. That man for some reason has been possessed by the ghosts of Gonzalo Higuain's finishing. But there is still Julian Alvarez, and I really like his game so far. Great positioning, and that finish against Poland, mwah, chef's kiss. So now it's time to decide, which team do I think will make it to the semifinals? I'm gonna have to go with Argentina here. I think they're just a little bit better than the Dutch, but I think it will be a pretty tough match, like every single Netherlands-Argentina matchup. So I'm gonna say it'll probably be low scoring, 1-0 either later into like the second half or into the first half of extra time. Next we have Morocco versus Portugal. I mean, I don't think any of us were expecting Morocco to be in the quarterfinal. How Morocco got to this point, they won Group F. Yes, they won Group F, and then after that, they defeated Spain on penalties. Portugal, on the other hand, they won Group H and then absolutely annihilated the Swiss 6-1. And we'll talk about that more in detail in a bit. But first, I want to talk about Morocco, because they have been the absolute perfect formula of a dark horse. Formidable defense, a midfield that will never stop working its ass off. I mean, have you seen Amrabat? Oh my god, he's like the 2018 Conte. But let's talk about that defense, because they have maintained 3 clean sheets in this tournament. The team has only scored 4 times, but you know, the American saying goes, defense wins championships. Bono has been a great keeper, and he saved 2 penalties in that shootout against Spain. And dear lord, you look at the backline of Morocco, and I really do think to myself, why didn't I rate this team higher? Nayef Figuered, I don't know what his injury status is currently, but he's been great in this tournament. Nusayr Mazraoui has been great. And of course, Achraf Hakimi, phenomenal. And then you have the aforementioned Sofiane Amrabat. That man is just everywhere. And then there's Hakim Ziyech. Morocco have only scored 4 goals, and Hakim Ziyech has had 2 goal contributions out of those 4. He also averages 1 key pass per game and almost 2.5 long balls per game. And when you consider Morocco have more of a defensive mentality, especially with them ranking second to last in possession, those are some pretty good numbers. But then you have Portugal, and I really counted out Portugal in the last 16, up until the point they decided not to play Ronaldo. This might be a very hot take, but I feel like outside of Euro 2016, Ronaldo to some extent has held back the Portuguese team. And especially with him aging and not really being the same player, that's definitely been the case, and it's been proven by Gonçalo Ramos, who scored a hat-trick against Switzerland. When Ronaldo was taken off, the team just played so much more fluidly. I saw so much more cohesion between pretty much every single line. The defense, the midfield, the attack, especially the attack. Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, João Felix, again, Gonçalo Ramos. It was something I hadn't seen from Portugal ever. But also, the defense has looked really good too. Diogo Dalot, Pepe has looked fantastic in this tournament. And of course, you have Ruben Dias as well. I mean, this Portuguese side, over one single match, after making one single decision, has become, to me, a team that I thought would be eliminated pretty early in the last 16 to a team that I feel like could actually make it to the semifinals, especially with a team like Morocco facing them. No disrespect to Morocco, but I mean, in terms of on paper, that's a pretty good matchup for Portugal. Listen, I want to see the first African team to make it to the semifinals, and if I'm proven wrong, then I'll be happily proven wrong. I want to see Morocco make it to the semis. But in all fairness, the team that Morocco faced, Spain, are passing merchants. They can't create anything. When your striker is Marco Asensio, yeah, I'm sorry, you're just not really going to have anything going for you. I'd have to go with Portugal here. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. It shouldn't be. The Moroccan defense is still very capable, but I feel like if Ronaldo stays on the bench, and I think he will, it should be a 2-0 result to Portugal. Last but not least, France v England. And for some reason, apparently England have been planning for this match. The old anti-Mbappe plan. But these two teams are powerhouses of European football, proven powerhouses of the new era of international football. France and England both have incredible talent on their teams. England have looked really good in this tournament, especially in defense, and I know a lot of people didn't expect that, knowing that Harry Maguire and John Stones were the center back partnership. But in all fairness, I'll give it to Gareth Southgate. He actually knows how to use Harry Maguire. That low block of his allows Harry Maguire to just sit back and just be an aerial god. John Stones has been a great partner with him, and then you have the fullbacks of Luke Shaw and Kyle Walker. They've both had some great tournaments so far. But then the midfield. That midfield is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Firstly, ball winner, Declan Rice baby. Jordan Henderson has been this free roamer and a very reliable one in that. And that allows Jude Bellingham to really show what he has. Speaking of Jude Bellingham, he's been easily one of the best performers in this World Cup. And then you have the attack. Harry Kane isn't exactly scoring, but that doesn't really matter because he's providing at exponential rates. You got Bukayo Saka, the golden boy, the golden child, the greatest English player to ever exist. And let's not forget about Marcus Rashford, because he provides even more of a threat, whether it's off the bench or if he's starting. We're not too sure yet. But then you have the French, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but Mama's boy, Adrien Rabiot, has actually looked pretty solid. Him alongside Aurelien Chouameni, they're not exactly the Pogba-Conte duo, but they've still done a really good job. One thing I want to mention is that I think French fans should be thanking Matthew Leckie for turning Lucas Hernandez into a pretzel, because I didn't really think Lucas Hernandez would be the most reliable defender for this team. Theo Hernandez, on the other hand, I mean, listen, I'm a Serie A fanboy, and I've watched this guy plenty of times. Of course I expected him to be as good as you've seen so far. You can't forget about the rest of the backline though. Jules Koundé has had a good tournament. Raphael Varane, as expected, has been solid as a rock. But if we're going to talk about the most important part of this French team, it's got to be the part that literally has the English creating an anti-plan for one of their players, the attack. Now, Ousmane Dembélé has proven me wrong time and time again. Antoine Griezmann has been improving in form as well, even though he's not really scoring that much. And then there's Olivier Giroud. He's a very mysterious player. It's like every other striker devolves while he continues to evolve. It's weird. But Olivier Giroud is basically playing that same role that he did in World Cup 2018, but I'd say even better because he's actually finishing chances. And that's dangerous. Not to mention, he also is France's all-time top scorer, which is the most amazing thing to ever happen to this sport. But of course, we can't just stray away from one of the best performers in this tournament, alongside Jude Bellingham, Kylian Mbappe. 5 goals in this tournament. He has 5 goals. This man is going for the Just Fontaine numbers. Explosive speed that man has. With one little body feint or shift, he can, within a snapshot, find the back of the net. This is going to be a really good match to watch. It's tough. I don't really know what to say. These two teams are very equal. I'm actually going to use the old the old jinxaroo. Go England 2-1 France. So sayonara, boys. So that was me rambling for like at least 40 minutes about the quarterfinals. It's going to be fun putting this together for sure. But what are your predictions for the quarterfinals? Leave them down in the description, and also don't forget that shirt giveaway, that World Cup shirt giveaway, 20 of them being given away. Be sure to fill out that form in the description. But of course, a massive shout out to all our patrons, including Janos Balash, Elfavi, Miliway009, Aldipu, Alex Rod, Ulta, Amin Suarez, Araisan, Daniel Ortiz, Francisco Hernandez, Aishadow Ninja, Juan Leras, Miguel Munoz, Muyandin Mintang, Return Fire, Rory Burns, subscribe to Tenditem, The Motor Drive, Tomicus, Trevor Batson, Vanilla Mexican 17, Victor, Carlos Anaya, Chris Damasceno, David Dunn, Declan Malloy, Dominic Griffin, Emmett Shea, Lewis, Joe Aparicio, Jordan Clavet, MX Weeb, Niche, Patrick Barley, President Pulisic, and Unbroken, persona. If you'd like to join the Patreon, there'll be a link down below and up in the annotations. You can follow my Twitter if you like, follow my Instagram if you want, follow my TikTok, trying to get to 20,000 there, and of course you can follow my semi-active Twitch. I'm gonna try and do a watch along for one of the matches today. We'll just have to see though. But until then, I'll see you guys.